Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the moods, safety and emotional well-being of those of you who have the moon within your 8th house in your natal birth chart, but also for those of you who have the sign of Cancer ruling your 8th house within your natal birth chart as well, okay? But before we do get started, make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to click that little bell icon in order to keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, if you would like to know more information all about your moon sign, your moon house, along with your Cancer house and your 4th house within your birth chart, then I have created a Cancer season/archetype ebook. So what I am going to do is I'm going to provide a link to that ebook in the description box below so that you can pick up your copy today if you would like. Alright, so with all those introductions out of the way, moon in the 8th house and Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, let's do this. Okay, so if you have moon in your 8th house or Cancer ruling your 8th house, then what this suggests is that you are most likely going to be one deep and highly introspective individual. So much so that you might keep any emotional issues or problems that you have very much to yourself, very much hidden and private. And what you may do with these emotional issues is you may reflect on them greatly, constantly even. You may just keep on sort of brooding over and over and over them. See, you might not want to openly share how you're truly feeling on the inside with others, maybe out of fear of rejection, or out of fear of vulnerability, or out of fear of being hurt, further implying that you may not feel all that safe when it comes to sharing how you feel, or at least it's that you need to feel safe. You need to make sure that whoever you are sharing your vulnerabilities with, you need to make sure that that person or that those individuals, that they can be trusted. It's scary for you to open up and be vulnerable by discussing how you're feeling, and therefore you might be the type of person who would much rather suffer in silence than let down your defenses or your guard. Then again, perhaps these behaviors are learned behaviors. So with that being said, let's take you back to your childhood to explore your moods and your emotions a little bit. Growing up here, moon in the 8th house, Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, it could be suggested here that you were probably extremely sensitive to the happenings going on within your home environment amongst your family members. But yet, regardless of what actually played out between your family members, maybe you were often shut out, or you were dismissed emotionally, or maybe you were forced to go into hiding. Then again, maybe this isn't something that was necessarily forced onto you. It's something that actually you felt like you had no other option than to do because you wanted to keep yourself safe and protected. For example, maybe you weren't allowed to get upset over things that felt uncomfortable to you because of how they made other people feel uncomfortable. Or maybe you didn't feel like you had a supportive or a comforting figure to turn to. Though on the other hand, perhaps your mother, this could also be just your caregiver or your nurturing parent, maybe your mother was someone who you thought you could turn to in relation to these types of things, you know, when it comes to your emotions, etc. But then suddenly you were mistaken, or suddenly she wasn't there. She just wasn't there anymore, and so she wasn't as involved as she once was. Could have even been a situation where she died, or could have been a situation where she suffered from a mental illness, or just from an illness overall. Or maybe she really struggled, you know, she struggled to be your mother. Perhaps for her, she was just going through a lot of her own emotional turmoil. Then again, perhaps you experienced very up and down, high and low cycles with your mother growing up. So one moment she was nurturing and caring and providing you with affection, but then the next moment she's talking about you behind your back, or she's telling other family members about the secrets that you told her, or she's at your throat just threatening you. Perhaps she even used money or power as a way to control you or manipulate you as a child, such as taking away material items that you thought were sentimental from her to you. Like I said, emotional manipulation might have come into the equation, or maybe hidden tactics were even used as a way to get you under her thumb. Then again, these examples that I'm kind of getting into here with your mother, and maybe these more correlate with really difficult and hard aspects to the moon within the 8th house. But ultimately, we are noticing here the real pull that your mother had on your emotions growing up. And so maybe you would always pick up on the emotions of this individual and then take them on as your own. It could have been a situation by which you just had a lot of sympathy and empathy for your mother. Like if she was sad or if she was grieving, maybe she was going through a lot of grief while she were growing up, you would feel all these things. You would feel really sad for her. Then again, it could even be a situation where if any time your mother felt threatened, so did you. Though this all could even very well extend to the whole family unit here, where you and your family just went through the most horrendous experiences, such as acts of violence within the home, criminal activity between family members, countless lies, betrayal, deceit, family members having affairs, family members struggling with drugs or alcoholism, or emotional grudges being held left, right and center. Oh my goodness, the list of family secrets may be endless here. The types of secrets that may have other families horrified over the thought of such things happening within their own homes. Though having said that, maybe it was your mother who really tried to control all of these things. It's almost like she fought with her dear life in order to control it all. Then again, maybe she herself suffered in silence. Maybe your mother had or has her own history with these types of situations within the family that she grew up in, suggesting that it's these things that have sort of passed down through the family line. However, this of course is about you, Moon in the 8th house, Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, and in your case, maybe you carry a lot of this emotional karma within yourself. But here's the thing though, maybe anytime you would bring up these emotional issues with your family, maybe you were told that you were wrong, or that you were highly misinformed, or that you were being too sensitive. They would maybe say something like, you have no idea what you're talking about, or they would say, no, we can't talk about that because it will upset mom or other family members, kind of implying this silencing that I mentioned at the beginning. Though on that note, perhaps it was your instinct that was silenced. So anytime you would try to protect or defend yourself, if you ever did feel danger, maybe you didn't feel like it was your right to do so. And on a much more serious note here as well, it could very well have been that you experienced sexual exploitation as a child, but yet it was covered up, or it was sort of swept under the rug by family members. Same thing could be said in relation to the criminal activity and to the acts of violence, as I previously mentioned. And so in this respect, perhaps it was this whole attitude of what happens in the home stays in the home. You must not share family secrets with outsiders because they can't be trusted. And if this was the case, Moon in the 8th house, Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, I'm sure that this can feel like a lot to carry, okay? Especially if you were screaming out underneath for help and support, which, can I just say, if you did grow up with this notion that you can't tell others about how you're feeling or about difficult issues at home, maybe you would act out in unconscious ways, or maybe it's these things that contribute to the whole not sharing how you feel with others. After all, you learned how to hide your emotions. You learned that your emotions make others uncomfortable. You learned that others can use your emotions against you by stabbing you in the back later on. And you learn that people can manipulate your emotions. So essentially, perhaps you grew up in an environment that felt quite threatening or felt quite unsafe, and then so moving forward, you sort of keep yourself at a safe distance from others where you find it hard to trust, for example. And if the moon has challenging aspects, perhaps you go through very difficult and ugly separations and endings with others. Then again, maybe you end up in an intimate relationship that is even toxic or it's emotionally draining, whether this be someone dominating or controlling you or vice versa. And it's these very experiences that you may go through within your intimate relationships that might sort of reinforce your already held beliefs and conditioning. But yet, unconsciously, perhaps you're seeking out for an intimate relationship where you are supported emotionally. The type of intimate connection that is very caring and makes you feel safe, makes you feel secure and protected. And perhaps you do find this type of relationship, but maybe there's also a huge lesson to learn here in learning to emotionally support these very complex emotions that you have. So, maybe as you grow older, maybe you will start to develop strategies to really help you navigate your inner world and these deeper, complex emotions. Of course, provided that you do the work, but maybe for you, you can really learn a lot about yourself by stripping things back and getting to the roots of things, and by unraveling your unconscious motivations and drives. Which, can I also just say, it could very well be here that your emotional and intimate relationships within your life, they can actually contribute to you unraveling these unconscious motivations and drives, even those relationships that were extremely toxic and threatening. So if you're someone with these placements and maybe you've been in relationships that resulted in you feeling deeply hurt, being deeply hurt, perhaps you can use that pain by learning from the past. Though on the other hand, there is a potentiality here of you repeating vicious cycles, and these types of cycles can feel very difficult to get out of or to put a stop to. And I think this is partly because your emotions, they can just be so wrapped up in the chaos where it all becomes just very, very familiar to you. However, as the saying goes, hindsight is a wonderful thing, so hopefully you can evolve past such cycles by transforming and developing new cycles that are much more healthier for you. And so through these transformations, perhaps you can begin to establish new emotional patterns, new healthy emotional patterns. For example, maybe you finally decide to leave a toxic relationship, or maybe you decide to explore your unconscious by going for therapy, or maybe you start to become closer with your family or with your mother specifically. And if it is that you keep your emotional issues hidden as you deal with these things on your own, then quite possibly you can get to a stage where you start to develop trust with your friends or with your partner, for example. And by building on that trust, you can then feel safe enough to be vulnerable and to open up. Which, following on from this point, when it does come to your intimate relationships, Moon in the 8th house, Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, you really do crave that intimate and close bond. You desperately yearn for it. However, please be aware of your tendency to merge so much with somebody else that you start taking on their emotions while sort of repressing your own. Also be aware of your tendency to become emotionally invested to such an extent that you can become blindsided, and also, my gosh, you can find it really, really hard to let go of people who have made an impact on you emotionally. It can take you a very long time to finally cut the cord, but boy, when you cut that cord, it's like they're dead to you. That's gone, bury it. Though with that being said, maybe it's you that can become very clingy and needy and demanding and overprotective and smothering within your intimate relationships without any real logical or rational reason as to why. But perhaps after taking some time to just really step back rather than holding on really tightly, where you also become quite obsessive, or where you start to worry that maybe they're going to leave you and you start to get paranoid, you know, all these types of thoughts may spring to your mind irrationally. Yeah, maybe by stepping back and just, you know, walking away, letting things go a little bit, then perhaps things can start to make sense and they'll click in place, and then you'll start to understand the rationality behind your actions or behind your emotions. But what I will say here, Moon in the 8th house, Cancer ruling the 8th house individuals, is that you really are very passionate people, and when your emotions are moved, boy, do you lose yourself in the current. And seeing as I mentioned this, perhaps a part of your emotional well-being is actually connected with your ability to reflect and go inward. So even though, yes, you may shut others out and not necessarily want to openly share how you feel, I also think at the same time that you being left alone or you being in private to work through your moods and emotions can be very good for you. Though whichever way you choose to spend your time where you let out these emotions, it's very cleansing for you to dive into these emotional complexities in order for you to let them out, in order for you to feel through them. And likewise, you may also be very good at aiding others through their own emotional tides, such as you supporting a friend who might be going through a hard time, or by you giving someone hidden insights into something that maybe they would not have seen if not for you pointing them out. And if it is that you've been through many unsettling or unnerving situations throughout your life, I think that you can show a lot of empathy towards others, especially later on in your life. On the other hand, maybe you also find it hard to relate with others who you don't think feel the same way you do. Maybe you find it hard to relate to people who don't feel as deeply or as passionately as you. I mean, after all, it's you who can often feel consumed or controlled by your intense emotional complexes, especially ones that are unresolved. So this, mixed with your efforts to deal with your emotions on your own, I'm sure it can feel like an isolating place, or as if no one can possibly understand the depths of your feelings on the inside. But I am here to say that you are not as alone as you might think or feel. In fact, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who have went through similar experiences, or who are willing to support you and care for you through your experiences. People who aren't going to trample all over your inner passions and your inner emotions. People who aren't going to use your private and or personal information against you. People who aren't going to betray you or intentionally hurt you. So perhaps for you, you're learning how to really develop trust, though maybe this is more so about you firstly learning to trust in yourself, trust in your own instincts, trust in your own emotions, where you start to really support these complex moods and feelings that you go through, or where you form useful safety procedures as a way to keep yourself safe from people who actually do mean you harm. Though at the same time, I also think that you're learning how to let down your guard here, specifically towards those who actually mean you well. With people who really want to develop a close and intimate and passionate bond with you, or with people who are supportive of you during your most scary and vulnerable times. Perhaps, like I said, the more that you learn to trust in yourself, hopefully the more safe you'll feel, and then hopefully as well you'll be able to then from this let down your guard around those who you want to invite into your private world. Though there is this strong emphasis on the word this strong emphasis on the word want here, because as someone who has this placement personally, I've got Moon in the 8th house in my chart. Over the years, I have learned that The only people I want to let into my most private and intimate space are those who actually deserve it. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video on the moods, safety and emotional well-being of those of you who have your moon in the 8th house, but also for those of you who have the sign of Cancer ruling your 8th house within your natal birth chart. Now, if you happen to have any of these, if you happen to have any of these placements, then let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button and give this video a like, remember, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!